Okay, I have the stream open, so hopefully I see something in a few moments.
You should be seeing me on a manga reading website.
I see black.
You do? Okay.
Okay.
That's odd. How about, did that change anything?
I do see it.
Stuff.
You do? Okay.
Do
Yeah.
Will we get copyright stricken? Hey, feedback. Look at that. Will we get copyright stricken from manga?
One Piece.
Maybe I don't care.
One Piece, yes, but something with views like this in these particular mangas, probably not. But
are you implying One Piece is better than Punpun?
No, I'm saying I'm saying the fucking lawyers are more attentive to One Piece spoilers.
Yeah, but you know, AI, they're coming for us.
Well,
back in the old days when I was still doing Tokyo Ghoul stuff, I did get copyright strikes, but I'm not sure if it was from the manga images or from the anime images.
Well, we could just try and... I mean, I can just not do this. You know what?
I don't give a fuck. Do whatever you want. Worst comes to worst, I'll download it and re-up it with a filter, or I'll put porn over it as a joke.
Boiling cheese. Oh.
Boiling cheese? What the fuck are you talking about?
His dogger's trying to kill him.
Oh, that's right. Michi has the survival instincts of a small child. I forgot. Oh, speaking of which, Punpun. Look at that. Or we should do Punpun last.
Okay.
Yeah,
because it's the best one.
I mean, it kind of is.
Stop spoiling stuff. What do we start with then?
Also, with Discord, like, if you want to stream that or not.
Please tell me it's. Oh god, I so wish it was on something more spicier. Okay, so we have.
I'm so bad at this.
Well, let's just go in order. Yeah, it's fucking hard.
This is good.
Add in years of no one appreciating you, and you'll know what it's like to be me, just a little bit. Dude, okay, everything's good. I assume we should really get John just to poke in and make sure everything's okay.
Did you use the thumbnail?
I think
it looks fine, but I'm not testing audio because that would drive me crazy if I had to listen to it.
I know.
Image-wise,
I'm gonna send John a message.
No, unnecessary.
It's fine. We're all good. We're all friends here. So, it's weird to be talking. We should start. Okay, Michi, all the little colored bars are moving, right?
If I do that, I'll have to stream OBS. I have a second monitor.
Oh my god.
I can just drag this over here, and no one can see. This is amazing.
Amazing technology.
So sneaky.
That's crazy.
Yeah, all the bars are moving. All the Mars are moving.
The Mars bars are chocolate.
I dragged this one in here. Wow.
The bars are grooving, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, anyway, we're doing an idea. I hope my audio was good. We're doing an idea I had called Arc to Arc, where it's just a totally normal manga thing where we're reading along, except we're just going to read arcs or chunks for mangas that don't have clear arcs.
Yeah.
Oh, we have to.
Hooray!
And each of us chose a manga to show the other two, except for Soul Eater. Jaws has read, but he doesn't remember. But the other ones haven't read their things, so this is like a new thing for 2 out of 3 people in each case. Yeah. Exactly. Well, shit. Do we start with Soul Eater or Tokyo Ghoul?
I think starting with Soul Eater is probably the easiest.
Yeah, Soul Eater.
Yeah, I like that.
Let's just look at random images from chapter 1. Why not? Look at those guys. Bang. Man, I sure can't wait to hear what you guys thought of Soul Eater.
Soul Eater.
Yeah, we read the first 3 chapters, which establish each of the protagonists. and then the beginning arc with Stein and Sid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you explain the continuity a little bit?
Well, I think Maka and Soul's story is supposed to be just before the first like tiny arc with Sid and Stein, and I think Black Star and Death the Kids ones are vaguely like close in time period, but they could have been a few months ago or they could have been just a few days ago.
I think they're like pretty close together.
Yeah, they must be because they're all like the same age and same relationships, kind of. So, but it doesn't really matter that much. I mean, it could have been like a year ago that happened to Death the Kid. Really, none of the characters from.
There were just a few.
Yeah.
There were just a few parts where it felt like they were hitting the same beats twice, so I almost wondered if he had went back and done these after the fact, and it was almost like a second attempt at an introduction, or vice versa. If not, then that's fine. It's
as far as I know,
like especially Maka's dad, it feels like Maka's dad gets introduced twice in this.
That's a good point. I don't think so. I think that's just him like being introduced as a teacher the second time, and no, as far as I know, they came out chronologically as you read them. Like the first chapter really feels like like a one shot.
Yeah, like a one shot.
Yeah, concept thing, and then it is kind of weird that there are like two more one shots, but yeah. I think maybe he just had too many good ideas.
And the website I was reading it on technically had something saying that the fourth chapter is the first official chapter for the story, but the three introduction stories are also shown in the anime exactly like that. So
yeah, the way every
chapter 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, every physical release and the anime begin exactly like this does. One episode for each guy, and then they're together at the school doing nonsense. The volume I had called them Scythemeisters instead of Deathmeister, which was weird, or Weaponmeister.
Translation stuff.
Which is odd to call it Scythe specifically, because only really Maki uses a scythe. Although the term Death Scythe just is the name for like the strongest weapon, just because it's wielded by the Grim Reaper, I guess. Even though, regardless of what it could be, like it could be the Thompson sisters could turn into the Death Scythe, and they would be guns.
Yeah.
Odd. Yeah. Well, anyway, enough dilly-dallying. Green, what do you think of Soul Eater? Wow.
I want to lead by saying all three of these have a very strong, unique aesthetic, if nothing else.
True.
And that's very true of Soul Eater.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, has a vibe. Really unique art style. One thing that always gets me with Soul Eater, it hits a weird middle point between like traditional anime characters with the pointy symbolic faces being kind of realistic sometimes, and then everyone's kind of made out of simple geometric shapes at the same time. Like people have very noodly limbs.
Everyone is very
but they
chunky.
Still look pretty.
Like,
yeah,
they have
chunky's a good word for
they have
it.
square feet with square toes, and they have square fingers. Yeah, it kind of was reminding me of Western stuff. I mean, obviously, it's very influenced by Western stuff and Nightmare Before Christmas and stuff like that. But like specifically, it was reminding me of that era of like 2000s Yonan Vasquez, Nightmares, Fairy Tales, like Western edgy comics where the lines are quite similar. The like opaque shading on everything, pointy angles on everything made me think of that. Yeah, definitely really unique looking. Like when you think of like the look for a shonen thing. Later it gets cooler and cooler, but like especially when he starts introducing like weird elements like graffiti style stuff. He also has really good like posing and angles on everything. Yeah, definitely you can definitely feel like he's just like an artist with a really cool voice just wants to make an action manga. Yeah.
Yeah, the way he uses screen tones gets me too, because he tends to carve out, very big blocks of light and shadow with the face with pretty clean edges sometimes. At times, it almost reminds me of like some of the chunkier Berserk villains, like Father Mozgus. Is that his name?
Yeah.
where he has the round face with the weird blocky nose in it. It's cool. I like it.
Yeah.
I like the unique art style.
That's one thing I miss is like from later Soul Eater manga art is he kind of loses he really loves these like triangular folds and shadows on all the clothing, which I think look really cool. They remind me of like Hellboy or something, and those kind of like peter out around the time skip, or maybe a bit even before that. They're occasionally present, but yeah, especially when he was like in the middle, like I'm looking at like stuff from volumes 10, 11, 12. He really got to like a really cool place with them, and he stopped doing it as much later. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, geometric is a good word for it.
Yeah. Also, really good paneling, really good direction.
He uses a lot of panels, like that stood out to me in contrast with the other two. Like some pages, especially early on, will have like 10 plus little squares. Like he really chops up the page into a lot of like tiny little bits. You'll have little insert squares and asides and little like little just detail zoom ins and stuff. Like he really has like a lot of stuff going on every page. Yeah.
An interesting thing I noticed, like if you compare the action scenes from chapter 1 to chapter 2, it seems like he got a massive upgrade. Like
he
improved a ton just between those two chapters.
Yeah,
like
I thought so too.
In the first chapter, the action scenes seem like more static. And once you get to chapter 2, it feels way more dynamic and way more impactful already.
Yeah. He just needed confidence.
Yeah, I found myself wondering how much time elapsed between those two chapters, because the art style doesn't change very much, and he's like famous for, like I've said many times before, he just does like the best manga like action scenes. Like later on there's some incredible fights. Just the dynamic way he like draws actions and moves and fucking poses and shit. And they all have really good choreographies. And the first one, I'm not sure how much of that is just that the scythe isn't as easy to make like fight scenes with, because it's a cumbersome, unwieldy thing that isn't really a weapon. It's a farming equipment.
With it in the later chapters,
yeah, later on he uses it more effectively. Yeah, first one there's a lot of just slashing and stuff.
Like a still image more than like you see the movement of the scythe or something.
The fight. Yeah, meanwhile the fight between Black Star and Mifune is great.
Yeah.
And it makes me so hyped for their second fight later.
That's another thing. Like I did not even remember that they fought this early, and I didn't remember Black Star winning that easily.
Well, he's winning because Mifune is going easy on him because he doesn't like hurting children. But yeah, still. Yeah, I also forget that he beat him. I remembered him meeting him like that.
I remembered him losing.
I just thought there was like something happened. Maybe they're gonna attack each other, and Angela, the witch, showed up earlier. Yeah, I didn't remember. I love that little. I mean, I was like taking like little photos of little panels that I had forgotten, because like Slater has a lot of like little funny panels that he just puts in. If I remember them off the top of my head, like in the first one there was like a square where when Death Scythe dad is crying about how Maka hates him, he has like a little doll of her. And he's like, and it says like a little arrow to it. It says like doll of Maka made by him. Yeah. or when Erica is like, not Erica. When Angela, the chameleon witch little girl shows up, she's like punching Black started like doing that like windmill of punches thing. It's a really tiny drawing, and then there's next one she like stabs him in the head with a katana. He's like bleeding to death. Yeah, it was, yeah, very funny. A lot hornier, definitely. Like that's always what I remember. Even before I read it, I always remember, yeah, early Soul Eater is constant. There's a lot of panty shots and nipples and boobs, and then later on he really just like grows out of that.
Wait, that goes away?
Yeah, I mean, there's like
fuck?
no, okay, there's occasional like fan
completely,
service, like I mentioned the other day, like the girl having to dial the witch number with her butt. There's definitely panty shots, but it's not like as frequent. Like here, there's multiple shots of like Maka fighting normally doesn't flip her skirt up in most fights after like a certain point, and there's not people getting their tits grabbed as much. This still happens.
Yeah, I was actually gonna. Yeah.
Green, what is this you're trying to do now? Where you're like, I want more. That's usually what I say.
I watched those sections in the anime, and I also didn't remember that from watching it.
Yeah.
So I skimmed the episodes again to compare, and they definitely toned it down a lot, and even cut stuff from it.
Like Blair
enough.
has like the nipple bulges through her clothing in every shot. That's pretty risque for shonen manga. Like that's
also her breasts have like spill and sag to them. Like one of the first shots are her breasts just like running down Soul's chest or some shit. Was it him?
I always thought it was funny how he obviously loves drawing big titties, but he chose the flattest protagonist. I always thought that was funny. Like if he wanted boobs all the time, he should have had a main character with boobs all the time. But no.
I like. I was actually going to draw a comparison to Biscuit Hammer because it kind of reminds me because the princess in Biscuit Hammer, her underwear are visible all the time, but it's not. It's not a big deal. It's like obviously it's there to entice the audience. But it happens so often, and it's so natural to events that it's not distracting or annoying.
Yeah, it
felt kind of like
it's not sexualized. It's just there. Like
it also, I will say, it also helps that in Biscuit Hammer, panty shots are usually just like a trapezoid without much detail.
Yeah, I was gonna say
the
that.
guy lovingly sculpts every.
Yeah, he loves
manga,
crotch bulges. And like there was even a shot later when like Kid and Patty and Liz were like leaving the pyramid. It's like a low shot, and they have like very visible like essentially camel toe like through their jeans and stuff. And I was like, this guy really loves just like the whole curvature of the anatomy, no matter what is happening.
I found it funny how the fan service was just kind of mixed in, where they're also the characters are all over the place and how sexual they are or how they respond to it. Because Maka, like Blair is an exhibitionist.
Yeah.
Maka just seems like mildly annoyed, but also, she's not like furious. She just gets like mildly annoyed by it. And then the Shuriken girl seems like to specifically like it when Black Star peeps on her. It went pretty.
She's just kind of used to it.
She doesn't care. She seems like more caring that she fails.
That was one of the funniest things. Is like the different reactions to the things. Like Soul is like awooga. Meanwhile, Black Star is like, he just like wants to see everything. And he's like, yes, pondering it. And then the funniest one was when Death the Kid walks in on the girls getting tentacle mummied. He says like, excuse me for barging in, don't mind me, and he just walks out again. Like, no, help us. He's like, oh, sorry, I thought you were in the middle of something. I mean, he blushes a tiny bit, but that's just like out of surprise. He's not like leching on them. He's just like, yeah, just leave.
Yeah, that's funny. It's funny that it's very shonen-y appropriate fan service, but they manage to kind of make it feel like more than it is because characters like what it is conceptually is often more fan servicey than what it is. Like a very low detail, panty shot whatever, grabbing someone's panties and exposing them to their undead teacher to interrogate them. Like that bumps it up a level with how
Death the Kid couldn't
okay.
couldn't just say you have different sized tits. He like squeezes them really fucking hard, one in each hand.
Angrily. He's mad at them.
He's mad at them for having different sized tits.
Which is hilarious, because when you see the pistol girls, your first thought is, oh, it's kind of weird that they're not identical twins. You would have expected that. And then Death himself immediately starts throwing a fit about how they were supposed to be identical twins, and something just got lost in translation.
He managed to find like the only identical weapon sets, but then in human form they're not even close. Yeah.
Also, very clever how they do the weapon thing, because the gimmick of some of the characters are just weapons that the other character uses.
Yeah.
That could have been lame. One advantage of it allows them to have a bigger cast without having to have everyone have their own fighting style. And like, it's not going to be Naruto where you have to come up with 50 gimmicks. It's like, okay, half the characters are there during the fight, kind of. They're just not... We don't need to invent a new fighting style for everyone.
I wonder if I accidentally like ripped that off for Mezil, because I'm like, yeah, that's totally like a cost thing too, is like not having to draw two characters in every single fucking page. Like in manga fight scenes, you just have to draw her and the enemy. That's the ideal situation. But you get to have her have banter with the other character, like the same way Mez gets to talk to Pinch, but you don't see her most shots. Yeah.
Oh, also, you mentioned the panels.
Yes.
This obviously has I mean, Soul Eater might be one of the most famous adaptations ever, with how much people like the adaptation and how well it translated into anime.
Yeah.
It's almost cheating.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
because the way it overtook the manga, didn't it?
Yeah. Like pretty early on, like less than halfway.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Okay, but in terms of like fight scenes and stuff, it was known for being really good, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it's
am I just fucking crazy?
Even the anime original ending is not bad at all. Like it's a fine show. It's not an FMA original, but it's just annoying that it doesn't adapt the same thing, and it had like few filler episodes. And you're right about the fight scenes, because well, they really hit the jackpot, because so many of these scenes are like perfect to adapt to animation. Like they're almost animated.
Yeah, the storyboards were basically done.
Exactly. Like, and it's Bones, so they got like Yutaka Nakamura on almost every fight, and he just adapts the fights perfectly and adds his own little flares in the middle. And he loves Soul Eater. Like you look at what like Yutaka Nakamura on his social media, what he does like fan art of still, and it's not like every show he's worked on. He does like fan animations for Soul Eater like well after it's done. Like he loves drawing Maka and showing her panties and making her scythe flip around. It's very funny.
The first fight scene in like both manga and anime, the anime adaptation of it is
better.
I mean, to begin with, just way better than what we see in the manga.
Yeah, there's the cool like
one of the most famous pieces of Soul Eater anime, because it's just so good.
That's like seared into my head, like her like spinning the scythe around her head and then making it spin on its own, and it like wheels back to her, and she's like hitting both his hands with either tip of the scythe, like in quick. I've seen that fight scene so many fucking times. It's perfect.
Like, this is the fight scene I always like reference in discussions when people talk about like modern fight scenes and they think something looks good, and I say no.
Yeah, exactly. No,
10
totally.
years ago, whenever this was, this is how this should have been.
Yeah, in Demon Slayer there is zooms and there's like he's playing the drums.
There's digital bloom and glare on all the laser beams they're firing each other. It's like, meanwhile, like that fight scene in Soul Eater, the anime is so good, because then also they timed like the track perfectly. Like that like guitar starts blaring immediately, like when Jack the Ripper attacks, and she's like, it starts this thing, and it's like, oh fuck, it's so good.
Yeah.
And she goes down the stairs.
Great is it? How great is it that the Ultimate Spooky Core show was adapted by Bones?
Oh yeah. I never thought of that.
Yeah, neither did I.
That was definitely a part of my like teenage infatuation. Was I was always into like spooky, scary, Halloweeny stuff. Like I loved everything to do with ghosts and ghouls and vampires and whatnot. So this was like perfect, because it's all the horror tropes
Yeah.
It's all the Halloween tropes like just made into a shonen anime. I was like, fuck yes.
I was wondering, Michi, did you read or watch Soul Eater before you read Naruto and Bleach and One Piece?
I not Naruto, but I definitely read it before Bleach and One Piece. Yeah, it was like one of my first anime, but Naruto was like my first anime knowing what an anime was. Like, I had watched like Cardcaptor Sakura and Pokemon and Sailor Moon, Digimon before that, but like Naruto specifically was when I learned about anime and manga, so that definitely predates almost everything. Yeah, Soul Eater I watched before Bleach, not much before. I think I must have been 14, and I think I watched Bleach when I was 15, and then One Piece I got into when I was 16.
Read it.
Bleach I watched. I watched like the early part of Bleach that was on television. Then, like I caught up to the episodes and I went and bought the manga, and then I read from there and watched the anime at the same time. And One Piece I watched and read also. Like I did that with a lot of stuff. Like I would watch some episodes, I would go out and start reading the manga, and then I would watch the same. I was just crazy for all that shit.
I looked up when the Soul Eater manga started, because with the second chapter and the character of Black Star in general, it feels very much
thank you.
like
I was going to remember to mention this. This has been a long-standing fan theory. The Black Star is a parody of Naruto.
Well, at least an influence. I wouldn't even call it a parody, like, because they are fairly similar.
He's kind of a parody because the joke is that he's like over the top confidence. You know, if Naruto's thing is like Date Bayo, I'm gonna do this, struggle through it. Like Black Star is kind of like a perverted extremes version of that, where he's like megalomaniacal and also he gets like violent, crazy, like insanely violent at certain points. Like Black Star just straight up murders people later, and he's murdered people before.
Yeah.
Like he, like
he kills kids. Remember?
Well, yeah. The way that he like the way that little bit where Mifune says his eyes change before he attacks him. That's like a little foreshadowing for like Black Star's fucking nuts. Like when he says I'm a god, he's not. Like he isn't. He literally believes that, and he's like on his way. The more you read the manga.
Meanwhile, Death the Kid's like, so am I. You're not special.
Well, yeah. Death the Kid was born into it. He was molded by it.
I not to be mean, but I feel like the author at one point was saying, I love and develop all three of my protagonists equally, you know, or all three of the weapons or people equally. It's like there's Maka, there's Soul, there's that other guy. I think there's a woman. And those two the ones with the tits, you know, it's maybe I'm sure it gets better later. But you can just tell a few of the characters are going to be the favorites. Also, I don't know why. My brain has the hardest time parsing Soul and Black Star and who they are and their dynamic. Because whenever I see Soul, like my brain goes, "Oh, this guy's going to be really explosive and aggressive," and he has his moments. But I'm like, "Oh no, wait, there's that other guy who's the actual tough guy."
Yeah, Soul is supposed to be a slacker, like. In fact, it's funny because his design early on, he has very spiky hair, like upwards, and maybe the editor maybe even told him that he looked kind of similar to Black Star, because not much long after he starts having the kind of downward hair that he has for like all the anime. Like in the anime, he has like a tiny bit that spikes up, but mostly he has like kind of a sideways spiky hair. So I think they're gonna like downplay it. I mean, in the manga, around like after the halfway point, he just straight up just has like a down, like his hair is just hanging down. Like he loses any like anime-ishness to his hair that much. Yeah, it's kind of weird. I mean, that happens to a lot of characters. Like Maka's twin tails start like just falling down and being very straight pretty soon. Early on, they're very like curly and wavy. A few of the other characters I'm sure also go through like these tiny aesthetic changes. Yeah. No, it looks very different comparing early and later, like Soul Eater.
Okay.
But it's always good. Yeah.
The second chapter feels like more like a chapter 1, also in terms of just the personality of the protagonist. Or,
yeah.
like, if Dexter were the protagonist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I
it's
already
funny.
mentioned
Go on.
how much improved the fight scenes are. And I think another reason for that is just the fact that Tsubaki can like change into like so many different modes.
Yeah.
That you just get way more, well, original fight scenes, so to speak. Like you can do way more than just with a person who has like a scythe or a gun.
It's the thing they mention inside of the universe is like the Tsubaki is just like overpowered compared to almost every weapon. Like
and in addition to that Black Star
she has this
hand combat.
And Tsubaki has a secret weapon that, even more on top of all this stuff. So,
her breasts. Wait.
No, that's not it.
I do like the chemistry. I like how all the teams have different chemistry.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. You mentioned a while ago that Maka and Soul have like a weirdly intimate but also chaste relationship.
I was thinking, I didn't remember mentioning that before, but I totally thought of mentioning that today, where I was like, they always kind of tease Maka and Soul. Like, in that first chapter, she acts like she's saying partner, but she's saying it exactly in the same terms as if they were romantic partners. And when Soul comes back to her, she has like a little tee-hee with like a heart. And she thinks like, thanks, Soul. Like she's not like they have. The story acts like they kind of have a thing for each other, but they never do that for the entire thing. Like there's never a kiss, or a hug, or a declaration. But I always thought of that as like, I think the idea is like that. I think that's probably more common, and like Death the Kid is kind of the weird one, where I think being a miser and a weapon kind of means you're already a couple. Like, so they never felt the need to, like, make it explicit in a way. I don't know, I just got that idea. Like, I don't know, I feel like it would be weird for either of them, like, wouldn't feel comfortable dating someone while they're partners. You know?
Okay, that's fair. I mean, the dynamic is kind of like, they're a couple that just hasn't noticed it yet.
Yeah,
they're like they're like a natural couple that they just haven't gotten around to noticing the sexual component yet, or something.
Yeah, like it happens all the time during the whole story. Like Soul coming back and Maka being all blushy and tearful, and him. They talk very intimately in the scenes where they're like kind of dipped in their psyche and connecting to each other like extrasensually. They're oftentimes kind of like represented in more like naked forms, and there's a lot of like them rescuing each other personally and always giving each other like that knowing look, that they're kind of like joined together in a special way, and that's what makes them like a good weapon. That's the idea, is like they're a really good combo because they're perfectly in sync, more so than most other weapon meister combos. So there's got to be something to it, but it's interesting that he never made it over, and never, even at the end, he never went. Then they were never like, "Hey, want to go out for dinner or give her a kiss or something." Never happened. Yeah.
I have a bit of criticism to offer in terms of
how fucking dare you? Go ahead.
Yeah. How dare I? It is. I mean, first off, it's interesting to see that the first 3 chapters never mention the school yet, or rather, even the connections between the main characters. They're all only connected in terms of they seem to work for Shinigami.
That's really well spot. I see. I'm so steeped in Soul Eater that didn't even occur to me. I was like, oh, obviously that's their teacher. But yeah, you're right. They don't say like, hello, principal of the school Shinigami, and my father who is a teacher. Yeah, that's totally something that he came up with later.
Yeah, it's mentioned in the 4th chapter. It's the first time the school comes up. Even, but the reason for its existence is not said yet. That takes like a few more chapters.
No, that takes a while. Yeah.
It's actually in the next arc, like in the Demon
Sword
yeah,
because that's when witches start being more of a deal too.
Oh, I do think it's funny with Blair how Blair goes. I'm not a witch. You just assumed because of my hat.
I'm a cat with unusually high magic. Makes
I was
no
going to address
sense.
this as well, because for one, there's no way that Shinigami did not know this, like given the kind of character he is. So it's weird that he not only sort of sends them after Blair and watches them fight like a billion times, and he never intervenes. He never tells them this is not a witch, and the text also lies to us when Blair is
Shinigami
introduced.
seems to be sending
witch Blair.
Maybe she goes in. Maybe she goes into heat and screams on his fence post all night and keeps him awake. And he throws his boot out the window like an old episode of the Flintstones.
I mean,
and he just got sick of it.
More and more, it becomes. Maybe it's just a fan theory, but I think Blair is a witch. She's just stupid, and I think Shinigami just lied about how to make a death scythe. I don't think making a death scythe has anything to do with eating a witch's soul, because later on there's a mouse witch and a frog witch, and they also turn into mouses and frogs, like the animal form, but they are witches, and Blair fights them like toe to toe, and they have very similar techniques. So what is the difference between a cat that turns into a witch and a witch that turns into a cat?
Also, Blair, he eats Blair's soul, right? Does she just not need one? Does the cat just
because she has a cat?
Because she has a cat, she has 9 souls. Yeah.
Oh right.
She says a little line about that when she's chasing them. Yeah.
Also, I forgot. With the 99 souls, are they just murdering innocent people and eating their souls?
Not innocent. You see that they go after murders and murderers and criminals and stuff.
The thing is, he hadn't yet come up with the Kishin yet. The idea is people who normally, all the wrongdoers here are people who have been corrupted and their soul has become monstrous, and that's usually due to they're called Kishin later, but I don't think they're calling them Kishin yet, but I think these guys count as Kishin because they're lesser Kishin. Same with that thing in the sarcophagus, that has to be a Kishin. What else is that thing? It's a fucking mummy. It's not a witch.
Don't be ridiculous.
It must be a Kishin, but they don't call them that yet. It's like hockey. Then later they're like, oh, this thing's called Kishin. Yeah, that Rasputin you called.
Also shows up in the Ragnarok thingy.
Yes.
This really is just Death Note when you think about it.
Not quite.
Death the Kid, Light.
I think you mean when you don't think about it, but
yeah.
Yes.
Another thing, this is very forgivable in terms of early exposition. It has basically the usual anime exposition of explaining things to each other that they should already know.
That's true.
I'm a weapon. I have to eat these 100 souls.
Is it time to talk Tokyo Ghoul now, or?
we will get to that.
We will.
Because I have a little bit of other stuff to say about that. But as I said, this is the very forgivable stuff because most stories do it. I do that in my own story as well, so it's not like I'm not used to it or that I treat it very harshly. But it's there.
I looked very fondly on those first 3 chapters, especially as someone who has now made concept chapters for things and how and I could see I can imagine oh, here he had to put this in quickly and here he had to put this in for it to work and stuff, and I'm a lot more forgiving about all that stuff where I'm oh, this is a guy's pitch, I don't want to make fun of his concept,
Obviously not.
I'm not.
There's going to be growing pains. Well, no, totally. I can just imagine the editor being that's okay, we can smooth that stuff out later, we don't have to explain right now that they're, working for the school, or that it's that they're explaining these things to each other. We'll take care of that. Which is fine.
Yeah. We could switch to Tokyo Ghoul unless anyone else.
Are we done talking?
I guess I'll just say, the actual story hook at the end is look, there's a man named Frankenstein who's very cool.
Yes.
Right, we haven't even talked about
Well,
that
yeah,
yet.
I was gonna mention.
You got me.
I mean, first of all, this has really cool designs. Like, I love how different they all are from each other. Everyone looks like a cool. Like, a lot of these characters could be main characters in their own thing.
Yeah.
I less. In fact, it's funny that he chose Maka because even though she's like a very good design, if you're more of an aficionado, I don't think like to most casuals she would really stand out. She's wears a pretty normal outfit and looks pretty plain, but that's kind of the appeal.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the idea.
Yeah, but I like that a lot. Like as a teenager, I was just like all my profile pictures were just Death the Kid when I was like 13, 14, 15. Like I love the design. I love all the quirks. He's the best. The OCD thing is never not funny. Like,
it is funny.
Yeah, like I love that he runs back home to check his. I was gonna say to straighten the painting, but he doesn't because he goes there and he goes, it was just my imagination. It flies.
That it totally is crooked in the first panel.
Yeah, well, that's drawing. I was gonna say. I love the subtlety that he uses a skateboard because it's like the most symmetrical vehicle. Like it's symmetrical in more axes than most things. Like a bike is only symmetrical along one axis. A skateboard, oh yeah, even the design on the bottom is mirrored. Like that's so funny. It flies in on a skateboard. Yeah. And he's just like they just like it's just the idea of introducing all the characters with like all these guys are cool, but they all have stupid quirks which make them massive losers. Like they all fail, they all suck. Like none of them accomplish what they're trying to. This guy has crippling OCD. This guy is a fucking insane egomaniac, and these two are bumbling incompetents that keep snapping at each other. Because one of them is horny.
Falling over the doorstep thingy twice.
Yeah, a lot of good funny like reaction images to stuff with very good timing for the jokes. Like I like all the faces when it goes, ha, they all like make the silly faces. I love Maka's dynamic with her dad. Like that is such a funny point to start a story in. Like it's not often that the main character is just like telling her father to go kill himself. It's not because of anything like melodramatic shonen thing, like you killed my brother. It's just like your mom are getting divorced. I hate you, you cheating fuck. He goes down to the ladies' club. And he's like crying about his daughter to the chicks. Like, it's so good, and he's the ultimate weapon. It's just great that they're all like this ragtag bunch of incompetent dumbasses. Like even their leader is just this dumb, stupid, goofy skull man who chops people in the head.
Yeah, I like how silly he is. This is a silly world.
That is like one of the cooler things later on is when he changes the design to look more like his full power form, and he still has the goofy face, but he looks like menacing. They did it really well in the anime because normally he has like a goofy, like high-pitched voice where like, oh yeah, like very goofy. And then suddenly during those scenes would like have like a really like gruff, scary voice.
Sir, this is arc to arc. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, sorry.
No spoilers.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Oh man, we should probably do Tokyo Ghoul.
Okay.
Not. Wait, there was a Soul Leader not.
Yeah, there is. Don't read that one.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Let's skip by that. But yeah, Tokyo Ghoul, Jaws' favorite anime.
No, it's favorite manga.
Favorite manga.
He's already forgotten what show we're doing.
But I wanted to say one last tiny thing about Soul Eater.
Okay, you have 30 seconds. Go.
About Stein in particular. He seems to feel like the sort of Kakashi role. Like I don't want to say he's tropey, but he has that. Like he looks fairly similar, and he seems to feel like the same role.
That is funny. That's the kid kind of is
like the anime made his when Marco sees his soul, which has scars, that they somehow toned that down.
Oh yeah. I had never thought about that, but just in terms of like general silhouette and stuff, Maka is the least connection because she's just a girl and so is Sakura. But like Death. If Black Star is Naruto, then Death the Kid being the darker rival guy, which they totally are. Like,
Yeah.
then that totally makes him a Sasuke, and Stein being a Kakashi makes. Yeah, how that's so weird.
Real quick, the giant Sharingan with the ring in it, was that common at all before Naruto?
The shuriken or the I think you
Yeah,
said
yeah, the
Sharingan.
big
Yeah.
the big shuriken that you throw with the
I'm
where it's a
not
giant
sure.
star.
I always wondered if
I feel like Naruto's the one that popularized that.
normally they have the four-sided ones. I always wonder if they really have five-sided ones, or if that's only Black Stars because he's called Black Star. It has 5 tips instead, even though it's Tsubaki. But she might be changing her form based on his wavelength.
Because black has 5 letters in it.
Oh, I mean that's true. Yeah.
It's all coming together.
And the A looks like a star, like on the title page.
All right, I yield to Jaws.
Oh my god.
Yielding to me here.
Ghouls.
Why are you yielding to me? I'm the one who knows.
Yeah, he's the one who knows. Green, you have to say what you think about Tokyo.
What? No.
Yeah, go ahead.
I will say Tokyo Ghoul. It has a strong aesthetic. It has some fun character designs. The plot makes sense. I did get kind of hung up on how a lot of the dialogue was pretty bad. At least to start out, there was a lot of people just describing what they were doing or the general situation.
Yeah,
especially in the like the cafe scene at the very beginning.
Yeah,
there's like a moment. I think it's probably the first real dialogue scene where Hide just basically describes Kaneki as a guy who reads books and is a weak nerd who would be easily be eaten by a ghoul. Yeah, I totally agree with that level. Like that level of writing is the same thing I criticized about Soul Eater. That's just the basic exposition stuff that happens often in anime and manga and elsewhere.
You are such a guy, Kaneki.
But what I want to note is the exposition done via the television and the talk show on it.
Yeah,
that's like a nice, clever little diegetic exposition thing.
That reminded me of like Death Note and stuff. They would have similar stuff to that, or like what's it called? Green, the manga of the old man who's a robot. I was gonna
Inuyasha.
Yeah, Inuyasha kind of reminded me of that too. Like they would do that sometimes. They'd be like, "What do you think we're dealing with here?" I don't know. It's a stupid thing. I don't know why. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I like that about Tokyo Ghoul, that you have this more diegetic version of or way of doing some of the exposition, in contrast to some other stories that don't do this at all.
Okay.
I do think it is definitely better. I did notice several times the media people, they were very annoying. I feel like if I was in real life, I would find them insufferable.
Media people? Wait, who are the media people? The college students?
The people on TV.
Oh, the people on TV. Oh yeah, the guy makes like a face where he's like, "Ha, so you're on this talk show and you don't even know that much? Ha, lol. Let me explain to you."
It kind of reminded me of the talk show from Starship Troopers. I don't know if that means anything to you, where they have like a crappy political. Yeah. They have a crappy daytime talk show, and one guy yells like, "I find the idea of intelligent bug offensive, frankly." Like just a completely inane comment that is not helpful in the very serious situation. Yeah. I felt like the media guy was making things about himself.
Right.
I like that there's quotes to German literary figures.
And literature in general, which all of them have been cut for the anime. Another big strike against
it. The anime was like, we can't let them know about Kafka.
I think they quote Hesse as well, don't they?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked all that stuff. I mean, I thought that was funny considering, like, Okay, this is just a dumb point, but like I thought that was funny immediately at the beginning, where the main character. I thought that was like a joke at the expense of the character, where he's like, "You should try reading some good books," and then what he describes sounds like genre slop, like like serial killer romance shit, where it's like a mother who's a serial killer and her son is slowly becoming. I was like, that sounds like shit, dude. Like, but then he's like quoting, but then he also likes reading good books, I guess. He quotes is it Dazai or no the other? No, it is Dazai, right?
Yeah, he quotes Dazai.
Yeah, he quotes
I don't remember
Dazai.
how he quotes.
He says, yeah, he says. Oh, he says love and revolution.
Says,
men's hearts. Yeah,
love and revolution.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was a good moment.
How cooked are you when you're quoting Kafka, Dazai, and Hesse in the same in the beginning to your fucking
I'm surprised he didn't
manga.
throw Nietzsche in there for good measure.
The cool thing about this, he is a literature student, so it at least makes sense for him to
that's
that
true.
way.
I'm kind of talking about the author.
Yeah, it's like, I know, but yeah, but the author chose which works to have him. You could have referenced Bronte and Jane Austen instead, but
shit, read a happy
all
book.
Of the literary references that he do make sense in context of what's going on in the story itself.
Yeah,
which also includes all the fictional works all the fictional works. He includes like the egg of the black goat. That's also like
it's also a stupid title
for what's going on in the story.
I know the egg is like because he's her child, but the egg of the goat, that's dumb. No, say the spawn of the black goat immediately. Spawn of the black goat would be a much better title.
There's a lot of people trying to own each other in the opening chapters of this.
That's true.
Own each other?
With varying levels of success.
Yeah, like the main friends are like quipping, and then like when the ghouls show up, they're all like they sometimes stand around throwing insults at each other, like, ha, a weakling like you could never understand, but ha, it's you who is a dumb weakling, and I'll show you.
I remember part of it because I famously attempted to read this a while ago at Jaws's behest. And then somehow just forgot to tell him that I actually followed through.
Yeah, you had like the worst of both worlds.
Yeah. I do like. I think the wacky food hijinks are one of the better points of the manga. My favorite panel actually is of what I saw was a wacky food walking in on scene a couple dozen chapters from now, which I think Michi will actually like that as well.
I know.
That was one of the best panels, was when he sees his friend on a delicious plate.
On a dinner plate.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was kind of cracking up. Like the scenes where he's just drooling over normal people going about their business. Because it was actually very clever, because he just sees, I think, a couple walking, and his gaze just slowly goes down to the girl's meaty thighs.
Yeah, he's got fat, a little bit of fat, on her flesh.
They haven't established its hunger yet. They just kind of do it visually, very subtly, which is funny. Then he's like smelling people at the playground. I'm like, that's a little. We're getting a little creepy with this. But it's the point. I get that.
Yeah, I thought the food thing was fun because I do like. I like in out there like high concept stories when people try to have very matter of fact like testing and rationalization of things. Like when people try and figure out like what are the rules of this weird supernatural thing, and they try and do like tests and stuff. Like when they're testing out the bananas and Steins Gate or stuff like that. So I enjoyed him testing every food and then finding coffee. And I thought the joke there was probably that coffee tastes bad to a lot of normal people. So it's funny that it tastes good. It's like reverse. Like stuff that tastes good to almost everyone, he thinks tastes like shit. But coffee, which is one of the more, obviously loads and loads of people love the taste of coffee, but lots of people also will be like, it's too bitter, He's like,
I mean, I think if it's like the only thing you can,
well, no,
other than water.
What I'm saying is that's the reason why it's one of he should try something like that rotten herring from Norway, or that maggot cheese, and probably would like it. Kazumatsu.
I was kind of laughing at him a bit, going like, dude, you're already a ghoul. Just eat some people. Shut up.
Well, yeah, that was me for a lot of this, because I've seen this kind of stories so much. Like, I've seen the like struggle of becoming the bad thing, and be like this is like every vampire movie where someone gets turned. This is Hellsing. This is Interview with the Vampire. This is
it's like, I'm a vampire that only eats other vampires.
And the same thing of like being a half and half is like a very common thing in vampire media, like Dampier's like Blade and Vampire Hunter D and stuff like that.
Also,
so
how did you like his logic where he goes, if I stab myself in the same place, I mimight get another organ transplant?
That was very funny. And I mentioned this. I noticed that was just silly. I don't want to be like gotcha kind of guy, but I thought it was odd because they were in such close proximity, and I thought that was strange that the mangaka missed that. Maybe I'm missing something, but he punches the mirror and it cuts his hand, but then a knife bends against him, so is glass stronger than metal to ghouls?
No, this is very inconsistent, especially early. Okay. I think this is my headcanon basically, that when he punches the mirror, I guess his like resistance to like stuff like that isn't as high yet as it is when he tries to.
It might also
step himself.
It might also be that he like kind of like
he focuses like way more when he's trying to stab himself. That's like tensing muscles.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. That's what I was thinking. Like if I was stabbing myself in the stomach, I would tense up reflexively. So if it's like
it's just inconsistency in the
maybe the mirror was silvered. And ghouls are werewolves.
Yeah, I was getting because it was funny I was trying to find like what I thought the guy's influences were. It's hard to tell from the art style because he's not very good.
I actually like parts of the early art style more than what it later becomes.
Like there was too much like derp and jank for me. I'll be honest. Like my first laugh out loud moment was like, okay, I'll risk getting copyright strike, but like. When he's like the most beautiful girl and she walks in and she looks like the dumbest, goofiest bitch I've ever seen. Like
honestly, he himself criticized.
Can you see this?
He regrets having her look like that, and it's one thing specifically that he wanted to change when he redraw.
Okay, whoa! What are we?
If you could see the stream real quick, like she has like this very like duck mouth, goofy look. Her hand is all fucked up and long.
I need to go live. Oh yeah, I was reading on my phone. I didn't notice how derpy that was.
And I was like, that's like the first big panel of the manga so far, except maybe that one. That one looks better.
Man, her tits are doing whatever they want.
Yeah, that's like the big reveal, and I was like, but
I don't mind it, but he himself criticized it.
He can't do hands. I understand, like his. I would also want to redo my first chapter, which I know is what he did later. I still am against it, like. Because it's kind of like cheating, but
I also prefer the first version over the second one.
Yeah, but I haven't seen the second version, so I can't comment on that. But regardless, what I was saying was I think this is total speculation, but I felt like he was probably a fan of Hellsing because early on there's lots of like toothy, pointy tooth like grin faces, which remind me a lot of Hellsing. Obviously, it's the whole vampire thing. And I also felt like he probably read Parasite as like a teenager. Because I was getting
like this, similar.
I was getting vibes of that, like when he's trying to stab himself and all those things, like the body changes, the tendrils coming out of people. So I thought that was interesting as like a set of. Also, I had a few faces there where I thought I felt like a little sprinkle of like Junji Ito for a tiny bit, but that might just be my imagination.
I remember I talked about it like longish ago that you thought. Like the like the way he does buildings and stuff like that reminded you of Blame, or how he does environment.
Yeah, I think I did say that. I also said that recently to someone. They were showing me Doro Hedoro, and I was looking at the background. And I was like, oh, she totally is crimping like Tsutomu Nihei. Like, yeah, I think Blame is a big influence on a lot of the like edgier manga, with good reason. It's a good manga. Yeah, the backgrounds so far they've been very like stock looking. which is fine.
Yeah, like
for a Japanese town setting, that's fine with me.
I don't think that's one of its strong
suits.
I will.
Yeah, go on.
I was gonna say part of the Ito connection might just be Ito tends to have stock characters with very simple designs, where a young man with a slightly sharp-chinned, round face and hair that hangs straight black down.
Hair. Yeah.
Ito has about 50 characters who look like that.
That's true.
So yeah.
The thing is, okay, I would say I shit all over the art. I know he's gonna get really good because I have Shojin X. So I'm like, that's like 10 years later, but whatever. I don't know what point. I'm sure at a certain point in Tokyo Ghoul, I'll be like, oh man, the art has gotten really, really cool. I don't find it cringe anymore. But it was funny seeing the few bits where I could see like echoes or maybe like preludes of what was to come. Was he has some very good. They're still like rough around the edges, but the way they convey their feeling, he has some really good like over the top expressions for like shouting really loud and like screaming and just having like angst or biting really hard and like this angry contorted pained expression. Those were the highlights in terms of the art. And I was like, I've seen some fucking insane looking pages of later Tokyo Ghoul and Shojin X where people have the scariest facial expressions ever. So I'm like, this is good. More of this, please. Yeah.
To address the visuals, one thing, and this is especially apparent after reading Soul Eater, one of his biggest weaknesses is I think he has a problem with muddy panels and composition. And when he pushes the action, sometimes he just makes a mess, literally in cases where he's just smearing ink and blood all over the canvas.
The characters shoot.
One of the biggest criticisms that you hear when you read people's opinions on Tokyo Ghoul is that the fight scenes are, and not just the fight scene, but that it's very hard to tell what's going on in a panel.
Yes,
you hear that all the time.
That final fight with the coffee guy, like the combination of like, and even kind of the earlier one with the girl who turns him into a ghoul, inadvertently. The combination of like vague tendrils shooting out and blood splatters and action lines on top of it all, really makes it like you can kind of parse where the two characters are, and everything around them is a mass of strings, and you're just like people fly around like left to right, and you're kind of like, what did he get hit by?
He has very weak silhouettes in places.
He needs to. I would say he hasn't learned like strong values for line like width, where he's kind of using the same pen for everything, almost. So everything has kind of the similar, like, values to it, even if it's a table or a guy's head or how far or they are in the frame. Yeah.
I think another reason why some of the fight scenes are like a bit confusing is he likes to have multiple actions happen in the same panel rather than have a separate panel for.
Yes, he does do that.
Yes.
Where we'll draw two heads to show the head moving.
Yeah,
and
I noticed that in a few where I was like confused by like he will have a character say something to the main character and you will see like his head like in black silhouette kind of awkwardly jammed into the square.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you don't have to do that. Like, I know he's talking to him. There's two people here. I don't need to see the main character's head receiving the information. Yeah, like he's talking to the like suave coffee store. Oh yes, hello. We have meat stored here, man. And he's like putting his like this black stupid round indistinct pointy head in the middle of the frame. Like, get out of the fucking way, dude. I'm trying to watch this. There's like a guy in front of me in the cinema. Move. Yeah.
Another thing I can criticize about the early writing is Toka just happens to show up as a coincidence way too often in the early parts. Like, it's just coincidence and there's no
like, she is just all around all the time. Yeah.
I would say it's too much.
Yeah, I think so too. I kept being like, oh, there she is again.
This will
I'm gonna say
happen
in
again
general,
for some time.
in general, I feel like we're collectively giving Tokyo Ghoul some slack because it gets better as it goes along.
Yeah,
is that fair?
This is the weakest point in the entire story.
Oh,
yeah,
I was terrified you were about to say this is the best point. Like, no.
Well, I was reading this, and I was like, "This is Jaws' favorite manga." I know Jaws. He's cool. Like, this is gonna have this obviously is gonna turn into something like way more than this. Like pretty soon probably, and then I'll be like, okay.
I will say I sometimes have consumed things Tokyo Ghoul related rather than just Tokyo Ghoul. One, I got fairly far the first time I tried to read. Two, I've seen plenty of like designs and panels and wallpapers I like. I listen to some of the songs from the anime, although I know the anime is terrible, but you know it inspired it, so it's something. We're on a journey. We're walking the golden path.
I was just gonna say, like, for example, one of the things I was thinking was like, okay, this is like a shonen-y thing, right? There's gonna be lots of fights. And I know that Shojin X has like weird powers, right? I'm not expecting the ghouls all to have different wacky abilities, but I definitely expect there to be a more of like a variety or intricacy or unlocking of skills, because so far all we've seen is they shoot like prototype the video game style like masses out of their body, and it's very like as powers go, that's just like an exaggerated punch ultimately, right? Like that's not much, and I can't see all the fights being that forever, like all the characters doing their different tendril hits to each other. So I was like, there's going to be some weirdos.
Quickly.
Yeah, I was like, same with all the lore stuff. I was like, it's not going to be just like, okay, ghouls are just, that's it. They're just people who need to eat humans, and they have this kind of secret network. I'm going to be like, there's going to be like a lot more intrigue in this, I'm sure. The characters are going to show up, and there's going to be weirdness, and it's going to be all by the point I'm invested, the initial bit's going to seem like oh, how lackadaisical in comparison, I'm sure.
Yeah, one of the weak points is that it does take fairly long for Tokyo Ghoul to become basically what it is, or that I think of as Tokyo Ghoul. Like chapter 50 is basically when the real story starts. So it's
all right. Next homework assignment: chapters 10 to 50.
10 to 50.
I mean, when we talk about splitting up the next arcs, I'm like wondering how long you were intending to go, because the next arc is 20 chapters, and in my initial thing I did not split it up, but I don't know if you want to read 20 chapters.
It wouldn't be crazy, because Green's Punpun slice was like the size of both of ours combined almost. So it was like pretty big. It was like 12
chapters, but
they're big.
Fine.
It's like 400 pages. Like I have the volume.
Reading 10 chapters of manga is not a particularly large time sink. I think it's fine. We'll just cut it wherever it makes sense to cut it. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we will get back to that.
I mean, I allegedly have internet now, so, we'll,
I don't really have much more to say about Tokyo Ghoul. I didn't enjoy
I do like the design of the main girl. Hopefully she gets her tits out at some point. I was
gonna say
we'll get there.
I really like the black. Like somehow the black in his pages looks really nice, especially with the hair of that character.
He has a lot of he has a lot of deep blacks. Really cool. Yeah. And cool.
And I like the way he draws her outfits. Like the outfit she has at the end of chapter 2 is just looks fucking great.
This is definitely my least favorite of these three, but I'm happy to see it continue.
I expected as much.
Yeah.
That was almost inevitable, because this is really just a very roundabout way of finally getting you to read Punpun. So it's like, the conceit was, okay, we'll all bring something we want the other two to read. You picked one of your favorite mangas.
Yes.
Jaws picked one of his favorite, and I picked something specifically to get you to read it. So yes, I mentioned Tokyo Ghoul with their favorite.
Okay, fine.
Okay, let's time for the moment of truth. We're finally talking about Oyasumi Punpun. That's a fun thing. You can say Punpun or Punpun, sometimes different ones in the same sentence, and it's always right.
Yeah, no one knows how it's pronounced. Yeah.
Well, Michi, how do you like Punpun?
Yeah,
You did read it, right?
Of course I read it.
Okay.
The whole time, when I was reading it, by the end, I just could think, like, how could Green do this to me? Was what I thought. Like, how could he do this to me? Because this manga just absolutely wrecked me. Immediately.
Already?
Yeah.
Oh, my sweet
I know.
You're in so much danger.
I know. I'm sure. But like, I already cried, and this is the first volume. And I don't usually cry to manga. That happens way more with anime and games because they have music. And when I say games, I just mean Muramasa. It really just happens with music and anime usually.
Damn.
But I had like a moment reading this that I haven't had with stuff like I don't usually have with stuff. Yeah, it just fucking just hit me. Yeah, just KO'd me, I guess, somehow. Yeah, it's perfect, obviously, as everyone has always said. It's amazing. It's the best. It's great.
10 out of 10.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, so far,
10 out of 10.
yeah, so far, 10 out of 10. If it gets worse, it won't. No, I can't imagine it getting worse. It's the same guy.
I know. I don't even know if I'd quite say 10 out of 10. It's definitely possible, but there's nothing like Punpun.
Yeah.
It is an extremely developed aesthetic and type of narrative that there's really nothing like it in the world. Like, it's the full fulfillment of what it tries to be, and no one could ever copy it. Like, it's just on its own
thing to it that I've come across is Boys Abyss, but that's basically Punpun, a bit more melodramatic and with all the weird stuff, like the weird aesthetic stuff and stuff taken out.
This is very weird, but like, the idea I got, and then I kind of like thought about it and it made sense to me, was that he is much more of a graphic novelist than a mangaka. Like, that was the idea I had. Like, he is closer to like the Western idea of a comic creator, of a comic artist, than he is to a mangaka. That's what made it so different from the other two. Where I was like, I have no idea, like, I assume Punpun wasn't serialized. I assume it came out in volumes. But yeah, just the pacing of it and the way the taking this concept and running with it so hard aspect of it just totally felt like, oh, this is just like this genius artist guy who had this idea and just like executes his work flawlessly type of thing. There's no growing pains here. It's just like you just open it and it's just like, oh, it's just the whole deal. It's the thing. Yeah.
On paper, it's the worst idea ever.
Yeah, I know. I mean, maybe that's why it took me so long to get around to, although I was always intrigued. I never had any idea that it would be bad. I was just like, it just was never like something that was like, oh, I have to read that immediately. I was always like, oh, it seems cool, but it seemed a bit like, I don't know, it seemed like it might be a bit like heady or pretentious or something, like not going into it or something, where it seemed like this big thing everyone's into, and I'm like, I don't know, maybe I won't probably be my thing. Oh, how foolish I was. Because it's not.
I guess I'll.
Yeah, go on.
No, you can go.
I was just gonna say it's not one of those things where I'm like, where I was like trying to like it, because I'm not saying like I'm a hipster and I would like be like, oh, I changed my opinion based on what people are saying. But what I mean is like, there's some stuff where I might not be enjoying it that much, but I might give it more of a shot because I'm like, hey, everyone said this was cool and people recommended it, so I'm gonna try my hardest. You know, this was like, I was expecting to like it, but I liked it to a different degree and in a different way than I thought, because I had no like concept going in, and it was totally like from me. Like, I could have read this without anyone recommending it and I would have had the exact same reaction. I think. But reading at this point in my life was special, though. I do think that's funny. Like, this thing has been on my radar for so long, and it was like one of the first things I did after a big shift in my life was go buy these volumes, and then Green made this podcast, so I would finally read them, and it was like, man, this lately I've been having like a lot of like weird universe aligning things where stuff seem, maybe it's just me reading more into things that I'm meant to, like, I mean, the works themselves, maybe I'm just like identifying stuff with them because I'm a egotistical weirdo, but it seems like a lot of stuff that seems pertinent to my life at this moment keeps showing up like at this point.
That's how it works.
It's been helpful, definitely. Yeah,
that just happens
I guess
sometimes.
So. Yeah. It's
I
like
mean,
Matsumoto, Muramasa, and this are like the big three that have just been like reforging my psyche.
Combo. I mean, it makes sense once you think about it. I think my biggest instance of that was watching Midnight Gospel, where after my first real psychedelic experience, I was having like a creeping dread and, you know, very uncomfortable realizations, because like I changed ideas like in the middle of the trip, and that gave me like this weird feedback loop of like, wait, if parts of me are changing other parts of me based on what they want as I'm floating along, like where's the bottom to this?
Yeah.
And I just kind of realized like how I realized that I had kind of started something where I'm gradually going to like lose my basic assumption about what reality is, or like what my sense of self is. And I was kind of gradually starting to lose my shit, and then I just clicked on Midnight Gospel that had been, you know, lingering in the wings for weeks because they were advertising it so heavily. And then by the end I was bawling my fucking eyes out for hours because it ended so perfectly, and that was like God giving me a thing. But yeah, we're talking about you. We all have those. We all have weird instances where like at your worst moment you suddenly, it's usually something that you've been meaning to watch too. Like, it's usually something that has been in the chamber for a while, and then you just you out of desperation you reach for it, or I make you.
But I think you said there was a weird combo, and I'm like trying to think, what is the connective tissue between these three things? And I think the answer is, it's been a time where I've been like hyper conscious about stuff about myself and thinking about like who I am inside and stuff like that, and being like kind of like scared of certain parts of myself. And all three of those things I mentioned, like Watamote, Muramasa, and this, all like have moments in them that like address all the things I've felt about the things, and they all say like they're all just like telling me like, oh, you're not alone, you know, like people feel like that. It's not just you. Like here's work proving, not just the author, but that so many people connect to, that this is a part of the human experience, and you will get through it probably, you know. Like, so that was good.
Not to get into Muramasa, but I have I have started reading it after you suggested it.
Oh yes.
It was so funny because Michi started by saying, "Oh, everyone has to read Muramasa." Then a few days later, he's like, "Maybe me and Green can read this and nobody else."
I immediately cut out like most of the people I was concerned. I was like, nope. Okay.
Yeah, but it was interesting. We won't get into it, but early on, there's a very jarring and brutal and cruel yet oddly bittersweet rape scene in Muramasa.
Yes.
And I immediately started thinking of a scene that happens later on in Punpun that is, it's not 1/10 or 1/20th as intense, but it gave me the line that's going to come up later is I love you more than ever. Just save that for later. It's going to be a long time before it comes up. But that scene in Punpun pulled out just these weirdest fucking conflicted feelings of loss and also tenderness in me, and the rape scene in Muramasa it's one of the only times I felt something similar consuming a work.
That's good.
We'll get there when we get there. It'll be a while.
Well, there'll be a Muramasa cast in a few years when you finish it. But the well, I'm like 80 hours in and I haven't finished it. No way you were getting 80 hours in the same time I did. So, no, I was going to say I wish I had the volume with me now, the Punpun volume, because when I was on my way from work where I was finishing reading it, I met my mom and I gave it to her. I was like, you need to read this, because I was like. Because my mom's been reading like a lot of manga lately on my recommendation. Like she's been reading like The Girl from the Other Side and Full Night, and she read the first volume of Pluto, and she's been liking all those. And I was like, oh, she's gonna love this one. So I just gave it to her, lent it to her. And but I wish I had it now because I have so many like moments swirling through my head of like lines and little moments I loved, and I'm just trying to pick like where to even start. Whew. I
wanted to start
go on.
by asking you, who are your favorite characters, if nothing else? That's a weird big question with Punpun, but who are your favorite characters?
Fuck. The uncle is an obvious standout.
Yeah. The uncle is my favorite character too.
I love the Aiko, the girl. Like yeah, I was also besotted immediately, but what I mean is, like, I love her. She's, like, such a realistic portrayal of, like, a girl that age. I like that twist of her having, like, that kind of mean, violent streak and it making sense with her living in a fucked up cult. Like, and that was so funny, like, how long it took for that to come up again. Because he drops her off at her house, and they zoom in on the window, and there's people, like, cross their arms shooting, like, energy beams. And just like, this is where I stop. And it's like... And I was thinking, okay, it might just be that she just lives in the same building as these weird cultists, and she's like going in there. But then, as soon as like someone showed up at the door, I was like, oh, that's totally her in the hat. Like that was not a shock. I was like, that's her. That's totally her. Yeah. Other characters I really like. I mean, I like the fucking. I like the out of the kids. I like the glasses Kun because he's such like a nice. Bro,
yeah, he's like the most normal person around.
And I like the other guy who's like the older kid who's kind of a hard ass and smokes cigarettes, but then he carries the girl, and he's got fucked up. I mean, all these people have horrible home lives. Like, everyone here has a terrible, broken home they come from in different ways.
I don't want to give too much credit to Giguk. This might be the only time I give him credit. That's the worst
way to start a sentence I've ever heard.
But when Trash Taste was talking about Punpun, like the one time it came up, he said something to the effect of Punpun is it's a brutally honest, realistic take on what happens to kids who grow up in broken homes.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
And it's just a realistic thing of like going to school. Fair. Like, okay, maybe the core group it's like a bit much that maybe all of them have like, but I mean, when you go to school, a lot of the kids you're going to meet are going to have very similar home situations where it's not just about like, it doesn't have to be like their parents kick the shit out of them. It just has to be like they hear constant arguments. They have uncaring, uninterested parents. They have weird parents who are into religious stuff. Like, yeah, it's all unfortunate, and I love how all the adults in this are portrayed as fucking psychopaths. Like every time a teacher shows up, he screams, "I'll kill you! I'll put you in a headlock! I'll fucking punch your lights out!" And all psychotic attacks. The teacher, the vice president, and the principal play hide and seek, and they yell at each other. Everyone shakes their head.
that I read about why they might be acting so weird is that to children the behavior of adults often like seems strange and weird and
I don't think so. I don't think so. Because here's my thing though. One of my favorites is the black guy she knocks into, and he says, "I've got good lawyers. You won't get away with suing me." Like that's not something a kid would come up with as an interpretation. It's something the guy said and they didn't understand. But we as the audience understand it. Yeah,
I'm talking
that's
more
what all
about
the adults
really
are like.
weird and crazy behavior, like the hide and seek stuff and
it is true that stuff happens when the kids are around. When the kids aren't around, like the nurse lady is fine. and other characters are. I mean, still, when the lawyer shows up or when the cult lady shows up, they just shake their heads around and they throw themselves on the floor. And they're even the music teacher is fucking bananas. But
Yeah.
that's funny. It reminded me of like the first vibe I got was like Peanuts, because in Peanuts all the adults talk like trumpets. I was like, yeah, that's kind of like that, because that's kind of what's happening with Punpun and his family too.
Yeah.
Is this representation of them as an exterior thing. I love, I love all the art, all the drawings, and I love all the fucking. He has so many like great gags with how Punpun looks. It's unbelievable how much mileage he gets out of this. Like every time he fucking wiggles his legs, his backpack is like a fucking weird satchel pouch that he has.
Yeah.
His father's mustache is like one of the funniest ones, because it's above the spike. So for a second I was like, that's weird. Why is his mustache above his nose? But then I was like, oh wait, no, birds, their beak is their mouth. And your mustache is above your mouth. I was like, technically the nose would still be under, but that's still funny. And it's not really a bird. That's just their mouth. And I love that like little stupid like panel. I'm just trying to think of so many I loved. But like when they're like hopping over the fence, and then Punpun like jumps, and it does like a like long exposure of like 50 Punpun like every position of him in time landing, like, and then the guy's like hacha, like strikes the pose. Like all that stuff is great. I love how the kids he just has such a, like, all of his works kind of tend to deal with kids, like Dead Demons is like that too. And I just love that representation, like kids just are these like gross, stupid faced fucking idiots who go around doing stupid dances and posing for no reason.
Sneezing and coming in their bed.
Yeah, they're always falling over, like constantly getting scrapes and nicks and crashing into people. And I'm like, this is the only like 100% real representation of like what it feels like and what it is like to like see children.
Accurate,
yeah, just like running around. Like that's just it. They go to look for porn mags and they smoke and they have stupid things. I like the fucking joke he has of like having one of the girls be super ugly and she's like, I hate boys. Like that was very funny.
Doesn't it start with like the cutest girl in school and she's like ugly
she's like
as shit?
Horrifically ugly. Yeah, and it's like, but that's so funny. Like even Aiko, for how cute she is, he still like has that like total like, yeah, kids can be like cute occasionally, but they still make like very goofy, silly faces. Like she has constant like she makes very goofy expressions with her missing teeth and creepy grins and stuff like that. Like that's great. That's such a hard balance to strike.
Very derpy.
Yeah, perfectly derpy. That's the thing. Like it doesn't tip either way. Yeah.
I'm wondering why he chose this, like the way he portrays characters. Like I wonder why he did that.
This has to be like just pure intuition. He's fucking
that's
crazy.
just how he sees the world. Like everything is like a kind of exaggerated caricature of things. But like the people, specifically the adults, the way that they have like these very contorted mouths and their gums showing on, that is very like, you know, not to not sound weird, but that's very like representation of like Japanese people look like if you were doing kind of like a semi kind of, it's not really offensive, but you know, like a mean-spirited kind of representation of just like a generic Japanese person you see along a place. They have these kind of like, they can have these kind of wonky mouths and funny eyes and stuff like that, you know. Like that's just how he sees like the people. He's just thinking of like people he's met, like he meets every day and sees on the streets and met in his childhood, and he's just exaggerating the elements of their face. Like, oh, that guy had eyes that were a bit apart, or he had kind of a big nose, so here he looks like really weird.
Also,
yeah.
I don't know if schizo is the right way to put it, but it could be. It makes sense to think someone who doesn't really get society might kind of see it this way. Like backgrounds are very stilted and the world is fake. People are strange, and then kids are like way over the top with how real they are.
Yes.
Yeah. Like that's kind of like a schizoid, you know, saying in my basement, like why won't the world change, man? You know, type reaction. I feel like the author has probably matured past the like edgy phase of that, but I feel like he's someone that doesn't get on in the real world so well.
He does so many like like I love the little subtle things he places everywhere where he doesn't call attention to it too much. Like having just like the kids do these silly dances and stuff. Like when they watch the videotape and they start doing the serial killer's dance.
It's so good.
Like that's such
like,
a
I don't
good.
understand.
Yeah, and then at the end he does it with his uncle, and you're like, nothing has to be explained. Like you understand that intrinsically. How does he do that? Like I was.
Also, the uncle
I was
just
bewildered.
joins in and they're doing the I don't understand dance
Yeah,
together.
yeah. Like, but that's like so. That's such like a like being able to convey things like that, like straight from his heart to whoever is reading it. That man, it really fucking it really like just put me in awe. Like I was watching someone just like just do so effortlessly all these complicated things in comics. It was so good.
Yeah, he's a genius.
He is a genius. He's just a genius. Like,
how do you like Punpun's parents and compared to each other?
I mean, I'm put in the same position as Punpun. Like, obviously his dad is in the wrong, but I hate his mom way more than I hate his dad. I like his dad. Like... Punpun loves his dad, and I love his dad too. And his mom sucks. I wish she died.
Yeah, Punpun's dad is just so much more fun to be around.
That was so
but
good.
Then that fucking burglar had to show up and ruin everything.
Why did the burglar do that? And then his mom had to fucking throw herself off that building. Why can't she think of someone else for once? Stupid bitch. That scene when the dad is like trying to tell him something about love, and I was like nodding along because I was like feeling so bad. He's like talking about, oh yeah, it's sad she doesn't love you anymore, huh? Yeah, that sucks. And then he's gonna give this big fucking wisdom, and I'm like, oh yes, I'm waiting. And then I turn the page and he sees some panties and he forgets what he was gonna say. And I'm like, fuck you, you motherfucker! Tell me the fucking secret, please, Dad. Yeah. It's and the guy, the Afro dude, is just like hanging out with them for no reason. I love that initial panel is so great when he just says, all you have to say is twinkle twinkle ahoy. Ah, there he is. And he just shows up. I love how he that panel too, I noticed, and he does it later. Punpun stands on all of the chairs. Like, it's really funny.
He stands on his bed.
He stands on his bed, he stands on the classroom chair, he stands at the dinner table. He fucking... I'm just like jumping between points because I just love everything. I love how he just doesn't miss anything. Here's an example of like him just like keeping the same thing going over the chapter, over the volume without like the uncle goes out and he mentions the Choco, what are they called? Choco
pie.
Choco pies. Then after they watch the tape, Punpun hurriedly is like, he panics and he offers Choco pies to his friends, which is cute. And then when he's in the dreams later, he's like imagining Choco pies and he's being like, we'll go to a world where and then he's like, and then later, way at the end of the volume, he's like, Aiko probably didn't even show up. She's probably too scared. She's probably at home eating Choco pies. And I was like, that's such a great little like tiny thing. It's just like a perfect whole. Like no part feels disconnected. It just he's crafted a like perfect tale of this scenario, and he's just like going through it flawlessly. Like I was just engrossed in a way I haven't been in a while by manga.
I've been complaining about some of the exposition for the other series, but Punpun just does it the best out of all three of them. Like the fact when Aiko like runs away when she realizes that this is Punpun's house. And she takes off the sweater, and you see that she has all the
bruises on her back. I fucking noticed that, and I was like, oh shit.
There's no line of dialogue saying anything about it. No. There's just two panels, like one far, one a bit closer, and you understand everything about it.
And it totally makes sense too, because Punpun wouldn't know what that means. Like, he sees those, but he's like, oh, she probably just got those falling over. I didn't even notice them. And meanwhile you're like horrified. I was like, oh fuck, she didn't get those from falling off a bike. That she's been fucking whipped. Jesus. yeah, totally. Like he uses dialogue. There's quite a lot of dialogue, and it's all great. But
but it's mostly in Punpun's
tons.
head, so it makes sense.
There's
even
tons
as
of dialogueless like sections that just work great. Like just it's so good. Man, I feel so bad because I'm like. Because I just want him to stay with her like the whole time, and I couldn't stop myself. Like I was liking it so much, I kept peeking ahead a few pages because I was like scared. Like I kept being like, "Oh God, what's gonna happen? Please don't let anything happen. Oh God, don't let one of them die or don't let anything horrible." Like I kept like flipping forward 10 pages, like okay, it's cool, and then reading them, going back and doing that and stuff. And because I was like so anxious. Because I'm just like, I just want Punpun to have this nice girlfriend and just want them to be happy because they both have such shitty home lives. I just want them to run away to Planet Punpun. Why can't they, damn it? But no, Planet Punpun is fucking gone.
Meech is just drawing this giant bullseye on his forehead right now.
I really am. I know. He's gonna fuck me. That's what I meant when I said, how could Green do this to me? I was like, he's fucking... He's found something that obviously is gonna like destroy me. Yeah.
This is like reading the first 3 chapters of Death Note and going, yeah, if we killed all the criminals, life would be great. Fuck yeah.
I don't care. I'm like I don't know.
And like, it only gets better from here.
Oh my God, how is it gonna get better? Like I can't. Like the other things. I'm like I had things I wanted to mention about them. This is like everything I want to talk about because anything you can point to, it's great. Like how great was that thing? How great was that character? How great was that scene? Yeah, they were all really good.
There's like nothing really to like criticize at all about this.
No.
The only thing you can say, like maybe that the weird things may take you out like a little bit, but even that is like very interesting.
For me, that's like the appeal.
Yeah.
Like I love that kind of shit. I love all the weird esoteric stuff.
Punpun has a lot of rough edges where it goes really hard in certain directions, so it does take a lot of energy to read it. That would be a way of putting it, and it can be exhausting at times, but in terms of being what it's trying to be, Punpun's pretty close to perfect.
I kept having to take like mini breaks, just like so, like be like, okay, just like steel myself. And the moment I haven't gotten to, but my like big moment, I had to like go for a walk. But okay, I want to just pick a topic and not go crazy. The uncle, man, what are some of his coolest things he does here? I like the uncle so much. I love how he's just cool. like I love that he's like the only one kind of being responsible, even though he's like a loser. But I like how he's like kind of mean to Punpun, but he still has more patience than like his mom ever could, and he's just like, why are you dribbling? You're so annoying, but okay. he's like when he thinks he's named Planet Punpun, he doesn't correct him. And then I love how he forgets about the twinkle twinkle hoy. Like adults do that all the time. They'll and even when you're an adult, they'll do it to you. But they'll tell you something that to you was a big deal and was this big moment that you'll always remember, and you assume you have this in common with them, and you'll bring it up to them, and they were like, "What? Did I say that? What the fuck?" Oh right, twinkle twinkle. Oh, yeah, totally.
Right. Totally.
Yeah, of course. I had already seen the panel of him shouting, "There is no God." So, but. I love how he's like a meek, he's like at the bottom of the food chain, so when someone more pathetic than him shows up at the door, he has no qualms about telling them they suck. Like, and he's like this shouting at them, be like, yeah, get try to stop me that next, you dumb bitch. Yeah, sure, your God is fake. The fucking like when the woman at the end, who I peeked at volume 2 because I'm evil, but I know he's gonna have a fling with the nurse turned cafe lady, but like when she drops the thing, he's like immediately like ready to like rep it. I would sue you if oh hello, I recognize you now. Like he's obviously like kind of an asshole, but he's still like the nicest like coolest guy. He's just
Yeah, he's a one-eyed man in the kingdom of the blind.
Speaking
he's
of
still an
his
extremely
realistic
flawed
eye is like one of the
person,
funniest touches, that he just gets a really realistic eye when he gets like worked up about stuff. And his glasses, like, there's so many great moments of him like Punpun is like trying to learn about sex because he just came and he's freaking out, and his uncle is plucking the model pieces out of like a Gundam model.
Yeah, that is pulling the Gundam or something.
Yeah, he's like lying down, he's like, oh shit, the laundry. Ah, fuck it. I'm just gonna sleep. I don't care. Smoking all the time.
He's so over it.
It's like, and also he just looks like Ben Saint. He just is Ben Saint once more. Like every single show, he has the beanie and the glasses, and he just is Ben Saint.
Yeah, well, Michi, you know what I do when I see saints, right?
Oh no!
No!
It's so funny how you didn't know what that meant. Just like if you stopped like just a few like lines before the big thing, and I was biting my lip, being like, "God damn it, I can't reveal anything." You were like, "Oh, Yuda's gonna look up to the guy." But yeah, yes. The what else? Oh man, I love that. The whole misunderstanding is that he thinks she's gonna kill him. And I mean, she might plan to as well because she's a child, but it's still funny. The whole time he's just like freaking out because he doesn't want to get killed, and he's like, maybe she'll kill me painlessly.
It's like it's an interesting like sort of psychological thing if you think about. The first thing the story starts with is with him like finding the girl that is leaving, like bullying this other guy.
She's putting pebbles in his mouth, and she tells him, "Don't tell anyone." And he's like, "It's love at first sight."
Yeah, his reaction to that is that he likes her, that should tell you something.
That's so real.
Well, and that's either because that's funny because either you could take two things from that. It's either like he has a thing for like these kind of like bully girl violent types, or he's just like so aloof that he didn't even see that as like a bad thing or bullying. He just saw that as like a matter of fact, like, oh, they're just playing. Yeah, just putting pebbles in his mouth, whatever. And don't tell anyone. He didn't take that as like a threat. I think maybe he just took that as like okay.
Oh, it's a secret.
Yeah, it's a secret. Yeah, like it's the thing between us. Yeah, exactly. She's like, don't fucking tell anyone, or I'll put pebbles in your mouth, you stupid bird.
Yeah, given what's going on in like his own household, he like probably associates the stuff with like, oh, this is all a little secret, like it's something, I don't know, familiar to him or something like that.
That was.
So that's why he reacts like
totally.
This, I guess.
That was great. Like that was great. How often he. The whole most of the volume he's like not interpreting things for what they are because he's a kid, but then they have that little fun line where when they tell him his new name, it's like even stupid Punpun who doesn't realize anything realized his parents were getting divorced, and he rode away in his bicycle while playing his flute into the air for no reason. He just went tweet 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 as he ran, and then he fell down the exact same flight of stairs as his friend did. That was funny. Yeah, the moments with her and him are just so cute. Like it's gonna be so heart-wrenching whenever there's anything bad. I'm just lining myself up for a fucking pounding. But like I love that.
About God.
About what?
About God. Like,
wait, let me just say this thing about her. I was just gonna say, I love the little twinges in all the scenes where they're again perfectly like realistic for kids. Like I think of all the like silly few day things I had with like other kids in fucking in kindergarten or whatever, where like that thing that happens with his friend where they like break up in the same day, and he's like and stuff like that. And like when she kisses him and she calls him a pervert, that's so funny. Her fucking sneaking into the thing and then shaking his own head for him, like making him nod, like that's so fucking good. I love. See, I mean, there's gonna be a lot of like interpretations, but I thought of him as like God is just like his way of speaking to himself. But it's funny because God is like a more mature him inside him, where he kind of acknowledges ways in which he's being like a bad person. And all those lines about being like, God really loves like this specific Punpun, you know, like, yeah, God really likes that. God loves that side of you that's like a coward, or lies to himself, or takes it out on his mom. Like, I mean, it's interesting that he adds the other kid with the snotty nose who has a pantheon of gods that he sees. And, you know, you can do lots of interpretations. I mean, they're all equally gay. You can be like, oh, this is like their way of internalizing, like, you know, none of these gods are actually telling them anything they don't know. They're getting that stuff from subconsciously or from senses, and it gets filtered into their stupid childish imagination this way. But also, it is kind of fun just to think that these things just are real, and why not? Like, that's also like perfectly valid for the story, and it would be fine. Like, maybe some of these kids have weird supernatural powers in their own way, and you know, some things are hard to explain.
Just like some of the responses from God to Punpun's questions.
Yeah, he just doesn't want to talk about a lot of stuff.
I got that question.
Yeah, I'm getting tired of the subject, to be honest. Yeah, like fucking just grow a pair. I love when he's like, he tells God to like God is an ass, like fuck you, God, and then God is like, oh, scary, and he hides behind the mountain. Like, stuff like that is so funny. Where it's good. It's good. The representation is perfect. That he's this grinning, silly Japanese man. All the text is perfect. Like the different fonts. Whoever the SIG did a great job localizing this. They even changed all the little like I was so happy that they put the music for all those music scenes, like the lyrics overlaid on everything. That's not easy to do from kanji to text. Yeah, I love how stupid his mom looks with her huge tits. It's so retarded. What was I gonna say?
I find her tits just unpleasant.
No, they're awful.
I get they're funny, but I don't need that in my life.
I hate her.
Why not give the dad fucking balls that sit on the ground between his feet?
The dad is just red because he's drunk all the time.
Yeah. The dad just living his best life.
Dad he has a big fucking bonk on his head, and then so does the mom later. That's so good. Fuck, I'm putting off like what my big moment was. You guys should talk about other stuff.
Well, I mean, what the fuck do we even talk about?
No, that's fine.
The uncle's cool. Aiko's cool. Punpun.
Curry?
Mild curry.
Mild curry.
Curry favor.
Curry. You can grate apple into it.
I'm pretty sure that when Asano like drew this, like I watched the Manban episode like a long time ago, but what I remember from that is that he likes to take pictures of actual environments and then draws over it. Is that correct?
Takes photographs. He prints out he turns the saturation way up, makes them black and white so they're just monochromes. Then he prints them out and he draws over the monochrome photographs. Yeah, I was thinking about that a lot while reading it a lot, because I was like, yeah, I remember that Manban episode very well too. Yeah, I mean, totally valid and totally fitting and really good. Apparently now he does a lot of like 3D stuff too. Like he'll model in 3D and then draw over that.
God, he's the Gantz guy.
I mean, people do that, yeah. Yoshikadu, the Tsugumomo guy, does that a lot too for some character poses too. It's perfectly cool.
Okay.
I mean, it's great that he wants. That's what makes it so cool. Is like the three distinct styles. He has like his. I love all three of them. Like I love his exaggerated but still anime looking but very unique looking human characters. I love his silly Punpun people, and then those two are overlaid over this incredibly realistic and and solid looking world, and that's perfectly fitting for the story. Like that they just live in this real setting and nothing can change that. Punpun sees the actual physical world as it is. It's just this solid thing that exists around him, and then the people he interacts with are more exaggerated. That's perfect. Yeah. Is there anything else I can talk about?
Well, I don't know that I have much to add at this moment. We kind of just let you gush and you talked about everything. No, it's fine. It's fine. I mean, that's the idea.
Okay. Okay,
you sounded like you were putting something off.
Well, this gets a bit embarrassing, but I was like,
oh god.
Okay, when they're early on, they're singing in the school, right? They do that a few times.
Yeah.
The song that they're singing, if I'm not mistaken, is it the song from Ava 2.0?
That Kudasai thing, the lullaby one, right?
Yeah, that one. Tsubasa, because that's also about wings and stuff like that.
Tsubasa.
Yeah, I think that's a normal like school kid song in Japan. So I
comes up.
I thought that was it. Okay, but I was listening today to Bullet by Hollywood Undead, and at the end of that, there's a little kid singing, like, I wish that I could fly, ba 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 ba, like that. So I had that song in my head too. And then throughout a lot of like the later portion, I was hearing, like, like the instrumental part of that, where it's like someone hitting a xylophone, where it's like dun, 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 like that melody from that song Green.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 like that was playing in loop in my head. So then, in that final bit, when they get off the building, and he holds her hand, and then the kid who's been being mean to the snotty-nosed kid is like, oh, okay, fine. He holds a hand. They all hold hands together, and they're all smiling. And I'm in my head. That's all I'm hearing is this like silly, childish xylophone melody looping, and I see all their flying faces. And then when I turned over to the big 2-page spread with the starry sky, and I had that music in my head. It's like everything just closed, or everything else like didn't exist around me for a second, and I started like, I wasn't crying like sobbing. It's just my eyes watered up to like an insane degree, where I was like, I literally couldn't see. Like instantly, when I turned the page, I saw that 2-page spread, and immediately I was like looking through warbly, watery lenses and dripping onto the page, and I started like sobbing after that, and then I was just there with the volume, crying for like a bit, for like a minute or something, and then I was like, oh fuck, I had to get up and go for a walk after that, and I was like, I don't think that's ever happened with a manga before, and I'm not sure why, because it was like a happy, hopeful moment, and it wasn't even like, I could think of other things in the same volume that were more like pertinent and affecting, and I felt more like they should affect me, but for some reason that 2-page spread just like hit me like a ton of bricks with that context of that song in my head. It was very strange. So that's
the most famous.
Yeah, I know, but I had like forgotten about it kind of, and then when I turned and it showed up, maybe that was part of the reaction, was me like remembering it from having seen it other places, but. Yeah, but I don't think it's the most famous for most people having that reaction to it. But yeah,
no.
Maybe that's something I'll look on Reddit. Yeah. Anyone else cry uncontrollably to this page? Yeah. So yeah, that's the best manga. I'm gonna go out and buy all the remaining volumes. I must have them. And I look forward to reading more and more for sure. Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's very cool. I don't think I have much to add, but we have all the time in the world to get through it, so it's
until the world ends.
Oh, you know what I mean.
I know.
Well, anyone else have anything to add, or we call them that?
Yeah. What does he? But yeah, it was hell. That's what I have to say.
Okay, Jaws, do you agree?
That's what he says at the end. Yeah, that's how I felt. It was hell.
Okay. Well, that's very good. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, Mr.